It's 100% my fault. Double booked, but I promise you, I'm all yours for the rest of the day, and I apologize for having to make you wait. Mr. Taylor, you may call your next witness.
Your Honor, this point state's going to rest its case.
Okay.
And our witnesses.
All right. Ms. McCarthy, you prepared to call your first witness?
Yes, sir. We would call Gregory DeClue.
He's the Zoom, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Nelson? Madam Clerk, whenever you're ready.
Dr. DeClue, are you there?
Yeah, he's right. He's here.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Raise your right hand, please. You do solemnly swear or affirm testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes. Yes.
Ms. McCarthy, you may inquire.
Thank you. Hello, Dr. DeClue. I would say good afternoon, but I suppose it's pretty late over there.
It's evening. Yes.
It's
Hello.
evening, yes.
Hello. Will you please give us a synopsis of your education?
Yes. I am a licensed psychologist in the state of Florida. I have a PhD in counseling psychology from the University of Missouri, which is approved by the American Psychological Association. I am board certified in forensic psychology, and that's a brief summary.
Okay, and have you been found to be an expert before in Bay County?
I have, yes.
Do you know how many times?
Oh, do I know how many times? Somewhere
Yes.
between 3 and 10. I really don't know.
Okay, Your Honor, we'd ask for him to be allowed to testify as an expert.
Any questions? No objection. I may give his opinion.
Okay, thank you. So, Dr. DeClue, you met with Mr. Allen in 2024,
Yes, that's right.
and you prepared a static 99 risk assessment.
Yes, I did.
And what did he score in your estimation?
The 5.
Okay, and that's above average risk.
It is. There is a risk factor associated with that in the largest sample representing the full population of sex offenders. About 12% of people with scores of 5 are detected to sexually reoffend within 5 years of their release from confinement.
Okay, does that really tell you if someone will reoffend?
Well, not with 100% certainty. It's a probability statement. We use probability estimates all the time to decide whether to take an umbrella to work or whether to expect a hurricane. In this case, there were over 7,000 sex offenders who were followed. And of those who had a score of 5, again, 88% of them did not sexually reoffend within the follow-up period of 5 years. So again, you don't know with certainty who is going to do something, but by measuring risk characteristics, following people to see whether they've been arrested for a new sex offense or not, we can compare one person to a large sample of other people to come up with an estimate of their likelihood to sexually reoffend.
Okay. Does age seem to play a role in whether a person will reoffend?
It does.
And so for the age group that Mr. Allen is in, which is 50 to 59, the reoffense rate, as I see from the table in your report, is 3.7%, right?
Yes. Now that is from people who were in a situation like Mr. Allen is in, where they went to court in a civil commitment proceeding in Florida. and then were eventually released. Some of them went on to be confined at Florida Civil Commitment Center, and some were not. But what they had in common was their age range, and the percentage that you said is accurate. It was a low percent of those who were released in the 50s went on to sexually reoffend.
Okay, and in your report, you state that the number of reoffenders in the studies that you cite were confined to a program and that those that weren't were about the same, right?
Well, again, this would be specifically those people who were in the Florida sexually violent predator program, or were in a situation like Mr. Allen is, where they're considered to be whether they would be released or not. Of those people who went on to be confined, those who completed the program did not have a lower reoffense rate compared to those people who did not complete the program.
Okay, and did you also use the stable 2007?
I did not.
Okay. Now, Mr. Allen had a pretty significant arrest history prior to 2007, right?
Yes, I agree.
And then in 2007, he had a physical castration.
Yes.
He's been in prison for 17 years, and then he's been in Florida civil commitment for 20 months. And he hasn't reoffended in all that time. Does that seem significant to you?
It is significant to me. There are several parts to that, and I'll reply to more than one part, if I may.
Yes, yes.
So he did undergo, they call it technically a bilateral orchiectomy, which is the removal of his testicles. Since then, he has not been found to break any laws or to break any rules. So there was a marked change in his behavior since then. He has not shown either rule breaking. He has not been committing crimes. He has not been in trouble regarding his sexual behavior. I heard testimony earlier today regarding prior to his physical castration. Even when he was confined, he got into serious trouble, including physical assault, and to the point where the SWAT team was called. Those things all occurred prior to this physical castration, and his behavior has significantly changed since then. Another part of this, it's still responsive to the same question, is that there have been studies of people who have undergone this physical castration. There are studies of people who were sex offenders and then underwent the physical castration, and to look to see how many of those people go on to commit new sex offenses. And we can talk about that.
Okay, and what are the percentages?
There were 6 studies identified by a group from California, including the University of Southern California. Many of the studies were performed in Europe because this type of procedure is not commonly done in the United States. One of the studies was done in California some years ago, but Mr. Allen is actually the first person in Florida who has undergone this procedure leading up to a sentencing for a sex offense. So there's, in the US, there is in California to compare him to. Of those, there were 60 people who were sex offenders and had been castrated. And out of those 60 castrated sex offenders, 0 of them went to commit new sex offenses. There were 5 other studies, all of them in Europe, and the range of sexual reoffense was in one study 1%, in one study 2.3%, in one study 3%, in one study 7.4% sexually recidivated. So in all of those, more than 90%, and sometimes as many as 99% of men who were sex offenders and then had their testicles removed, again, from 90 to 99, over 90 to 99% of them were not arrested for a new sex offense during the follow-up. There was one small study that had the highest percentage of sexual reoffending among people who had had their testicles removed. That was a group of 20, let me find the numbers here. That was in that group, the percentage of sexual reoffenders was 10%. That's 10%. And in that study, those were men who had their testicles removed, but had then undergone hormone replacement surgery. Sorry, I said the wrong word, surgery. They had hormone replacement. In other words, they got testosterone and or other hormones after the castration, and still 90% of them did not sexually reoffend.
Okay, and these were all people that were let out into the community, right?
Right. They were all let out into the community. And some of the follow-up periods were 5 to 15 years. And just the vast majority of them were not found to sexually reoffend.
Okay. When you met with Mr. Allen, was he forthcoming with you about his prior infractions?
He did not deny that he committed infractions that he was convicted of. So in that sense, he was forthcoming.
Okay, and he explained that it had a lot to do with drug use?
Yes, he did put it in those terms.
But he's never tested positive for a substance since his castration, right?
That's my understanding, yes. In the records I reviewed, that's what it shows.
And in prison, the inmates are drug tested.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, the state wants him to be confined for an indefinite period. Are you familiar with the program at the Florida Civil Commitment Center?
Yes, I am.
Isn't one of those treatments they offer as medication to lower the men's testosterone?
Yes, that's not required, but as you say, it is offered.
And is that to help them not reoffend?
Yes.
Okay, but Mr. Allen did that by having the castration.
That's correct.
Bottom line, statistically, Mr. Allen is no more likely to reoffend than are any other sex offenders, correct?
Well, there are sex offenders who are less likely to reoffend, and there are sex offenders who are more likely to reoffend. So I can't really say just a flat yes or no to the question.
Okay. But he has a good chance of not reoffending.
Well,
Considering considering everything that's gone on in his life and how he's been offense-free for the past 17 years and offense-free for the past 20 months, he has a better chance than other people.
I'm hesitant to answer the question because it's vague, just the way it is, yes or no. So I'm going to decline to answer.
Okay. As far as mental disorders, did you diagnose him with a mental disorder?
Not exactly. I'll clarify. Sorry, I spoke wrong. I did Well, let me, hold on just a minute. I'm looking at my report to refresh my recollection so I don't rely on my memory and make a mistake.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I diagnosed him with other specified paraphilic disorder, specifically coercive paraphilic disorder in apparent remission following bilateral orchiectomy. So in other words, it's my opinion that he did meet criteria for having a paraphilic disorder. That means an unusual pattern of sexual arousal. But he has not shown any symptoms of that disorder since the orchiectomy. So that would be 18 years. And that's basically what this diagnosis represents. He showed those symptoms before, but he has not shown those symptoms for almost 2 decades.
Okay. Dr. Swan deemed him a psychopath. Do you agree with that?
I don't, because in considering whether he meets criteria, okay, I have to back up one step to clarify. Psychopathy or being a psychopath is not a mental health diagnosis under our current manual, but it is a term that is used by professionals, and there are criteria for labeling somebody as a psychopath. In my opinion, it would not be correct to label Mr. Allen as a psychopath because he has not shown any indication of those traits in the last 18 years. So in assigning a label to somebody, in my opinion, it's not professionally appropriate to focus only on things from 18 years or more ago. It's important to also look at current behavior, and he just has not shown an indication of antisocial behavior of a type that would qualify for a diagnosis of psychopathy for, again, almost 2 decades.
Okay, so, basically he hasn't shown any infractions at all. Do you believe that he meets the criteria of a sexually violent predator?
In my opinion, he does not.
And why is that?
I do not consider that he is likely to sexually reoffend if he is released. I do take into consideration that in comparison to other groups of people with similar static 99R scores, or comparing him to other sex offenders who've had their testicles removed, he does not show up as somebody who is likely to sexually reoffend. In other words, he probably won't be detected to sexually reoffend. And then I also took into consideration that he has 10 years of sex offender probation, along with sex offender registration, wearing a monitor, going to treatment in the community. And so if he were to not behave properly, he would be monitored both with the ankle bracelet and with regular checkups and with regular check-ins with a sex offender treatment provider, so that all of those things combined would reduce his risk of sexual reoffending even lower than it already would be without such restrictions.
Yes, sir. And, the people that go to Florida Civil Commitment Center, Do they have one-on-one therapy or do they go in groups?
It's primarily group treatment. There is some access to one-to-one treatment, but not on a regular or routine basis.
So if he were to, find a way to go to one-on-one therapy as a probationer, wouldn't that be better for him as far as, not reoffending?
That particular part I would not agree to. And also it's not either or. If somebody, so he was likely to be required to go to sex offender treatment as part of his sex offender probation. That will likely be one-on-one treatment. I'm sorry, I said that exactly wrong. That will likely be group treatment. And then if needs it, qualifies for it, and somehow can afford it, then he could also avail himself of one-to-one treatment. But the likelihood either way, whether he's confined at the Florida Civil Commitment Center or he's in sex offender treatment in the community while on probation, either way, it's likely that his primary treatment modality will be group sex offender treatment.
Okay, and that's the best treatment for sex offenders?
The full answer will probably be longer, but there's not evidence that one-to-one treatment is overall better than group treatment. So not only is group treatment cost effective, but the effectiveness of it appears to be as good as one-to-one treatment when you look at groups of sex offenders.
Okay, just one moment, please.
Sure.
And Dr. DeClue, do you recall preparing a report for this case?
Yes, yes, I do.
Okay, and you signed it at the end?
Yes, I did.
Okay, Your Honor, I would move, defendant's composite exhibit B into evidence.
Any objection? Minutes of composite exhibit B will be accepted into evidence and published whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Dr. DeClue. Those are all the questions I have for you.
Mr. Taylor?
Dr. DeClue, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us. Ms. McCarthy insinuated you were somewhere far away. Where are you joining us from today?
I'm in Europe, specifically in Austria.
Is it warm, hot, chilly, cold there this time of year compared to home, compared to Northwest Florida? How's the weather?
It was rainy today, but pleasant.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to take much of your time. You'll recall in this case, during the course of it, I sent some interrogatories, which were just another word for questions as we litigated this case in discovery. Do you have a copy of those interrogatories I provided you and asked you questions that you answered?
I'm not sure. I don't actually recall them at this time, but I'll look in my records here and see if I have them. Do you know what the document would have been called?
Yes, it's actually called the Petitioner's Expert Interrogatories to Respondent. And it was just some questions. And I will submit to you that you signed off on them in August of 24.
Yeah, I don't dispute that. I just don't actually remember. I don't see that something with that title in my list of documents on my computer. So I might have it, but I wouldn't know where to find it quickly.
Okay, well, I can just kind of ask you the questions that were raised in those this is not a memory quiz. I'm not trying to play gotcha or you didn't remember a question from 6 months ago or something like that. I just wanted to point out, your history as an evaluator with the sexually violent predator program It sounds like you have not officially been a contractor for the program since, was it 2010 or 2014?
2010.
Okay. And so, but I do understand, like many evaluators, you still do some of this work as part of your forensic practice. Is that correct?
Yes.
One of the questions I'd ask you in those interrogatories, basically just ask you, and this is number 16 here for Ms. McCarthy, in the past 10 years, what percentage of your practice's income has come from your work as an expert on sexually violent predator cases? Do you remember your answer to that roughly?
I don't remember the answer of what I wrote down then.
Would 20% sound correct? That's what you put down, 20%. That sound
That would-
accurate?
That would be a reasonable estimate.
Okay. Another question here I asked you, just in the last 10 years or so, and I know it's difficult to recall things over a decade, but just in general, you know, how many times you had testified in these types of cases, and you estimated about 100. Would that sound reasonable?
Yes.
I asked you a question concerning what percentage of your testimony in the past 5 years has been on behalf of the state or prosecutors versus on behalf of the defense. Do you recall if you testified on behalf of a prosecutor in the last 5 years in court in Florida?
I don't think so in the last 5 years. As you may recall, there have been times in my career where I primarily testified at the request of the prosecutor, but not in the most recent 5 years. That would not be true.
Most recently, isn't it true you'd be testifying on behalf of the defense in cases like these?
That's right.
And it sounds like, you know, you and I'd asked you during your deposition, you recall giving a deposition in this case under oath?
I don't recall specifically in this case. I know I've given depositions under oath in cases, but I don't recall this one specifically.
As you know, you've been doing these cases a long time. The state is tasked with discussing and proving 3 elements, and one of those elements is whether or not someone has been convicted of a sexually violent crime, which is not really in dispute in this case. So I'm not going to posit that question for you, but it sounds like you agree with the state's experts that at least at some point in Bobby Allen's past, he qualified and had a sexual disorder or a personality defect under the statute.
Yes, I need to qualify my answer just to be cautious as a professional. So in answering that, I do answer that it appears likely that he would have met criteria for example, in 2007. The reason I qualify the answer is that I had never met him then, and it's not generally recommended to diagnose somebody you've never met. But based on the record review, it appears likely to me that he would have met criteria at that time based on the record's behavior.
That's all the questions I have for this witness, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Parker, can you reiterate?
No, Your Honor.
Your witness be excused.
Yes, he can be excused.
Be excused for the day.
Thank you, Dr. DeClue.
Thank you.
You can call your next witness.
I call Kevin Britt. He is also supposed to be on Zoom.
Currently, there isn't anybody on Zoom.
Okay,
You want to step out and see if you can contact him, Mr. McCarthy?
what I'll do is I'll call Mr. Allen and then hopefully we'll have him by then.
Make your way to the witness chair. Yes, sir. Mr. Allen, if you remain standing. to be sworn.
You solemnly swear or affirm testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, ma'am.
Worth, you may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Okay, tell us your name, please.
Bobby James Allen,
And how old are you, Mr. Allen?
53,
And where do you currently reside?
at the Florida Civil Commitment Center,
How long have you been there?
for around 20 months.
Okay, and that's in Arcadia?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, you've been sitting here listening to the testimony of the experts. Do you agree with the state's experts that you are likely to reoffend if they don't lock you up?
No, ma'am.
Okay, why not?
Can I point out some of the stuff that was said?
We'll get there.
Because they say, the doctors are saying that the castration doesn't affect you, and it affects you a whole lot different. I'm a totally different person than I was back then, not just because of the castration, but because of my age, and because I got saved and I changed my life. They say that the definition of that is somebody likely to engage in sexual violence if they ain't confined. I don't have any sexual desire. I've lost the aggression I used to have. I was raised up my whole life fighting from a kid all the way up until the castration. And I haven't been in a fight since the castration. And I learned to be able to deal with people better instead of getting into heated arguments.
Okay, do you feel that that's a permanent change in your personality?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Does testosterone help with the symptoms that you had gotten at first from the castration?
You talking about the sweating and all that?
Yeah,
It helped with those. But I like to point out that I didn't receive testosterone on a constant. There were times that went 2 years without receiving an injection.
okay.
So
And when was the last time you had any testosterone?
I think the last time was around October of 2023. When I first got to the facility, I thought I'd still need it because of the problems I had in DOC. But I didn't get the injections, and the longer I went without them, I started seeing I didn't need them anymore. I don't know if it's because I got older and people don't need as much testosterone, but the profuse sweating and the breast growth and all that stuff.
Okay. When you were getting the testosterone, did you commit any infractions?
No, ma'am, I haven't committed any in the 17 years there and the 20 months at the Florida Civil Commitment Center.
Okay, and you were actually sent to a prison for model prisoners, right?
Yes, ma'am. In 2019, I got chosen to be the first to go to the first ever incentivized institution for model inmates in Florida. And while I was there, I completed 1 year of prison fellowship program as a character-based and faith-based. Then I completed 1 year of Horizon program, which is character building and faith-based. I completed 6 months of substance abuse. I completed 6 months of anger management. I completed 6 months of thinking for a change. I completed several classes for exchange for change writing courses, poetry and nonfiction and fiction. That's why some of the poems and stuff I've got, that's just part of some that I got. And I think I completed some other religious classes and stuff they had there. They had a lot of religious classes going on.
Okay. Why did you take all those classes?
I was on because I wanted to better myself. I wanted before when I was in prison, he pointed out that I went to the drug class way back when I was younger. But I was never somebody before and never thought I needed any change, you know? But once I got the operation, I got into prison this time. I started evaluating myself and seeing that I needed to change, and that's why I took the classes to try to be a better person. You know?
Okay. Now, about the crimes that you committed before, how do you feel about them now?
I know that a lot of people are disgusted about what I did, and they look at me. A lot of people that hate me. It don't matter what I could say or do. But I know this, that once I started changing and I started looking back at my past, I feel like nobody can hate me or beat me. I don't think nobody can hate me or be more disgusted with me than I am.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm so sorry for what I did. Oh, if the victims were here, I wish I could have a chance to tell them. Because now I know what they felt. Because when I was in prison, I had my own daughter have to go through this situation. My daughter got took from her mother. In 2013, they called me and told me that she'd been getting raped by her uncle. So I'm not intellectual.
Okay. So you're not the same man you were before.
No, ma'am.
Okay. If the jury releases you, where do you plan to go?
I'm going to Orlando. I figured it's better I go somewhere where I can get a clean start and not be around people that I was around before. And
Okay. Do you have a job there?
yes, ma'am, I got a friend there that he manages a day labor place where he said he'll have me a job every day until I can find something permanent if I want, and that he'll provide me the funds I need to rent a place until I can get on my feet. He said he'll provide the rent until I can get on my feet and start paying them back.
Okay. And will you be on probation?
Yes, ma'am, I'll be on 10 years probation. That's something else. It's not been pointed out. To hold me at this facility costs over $3,000 a month. When I got 10 years probation, I have to pay for my own treatment. I have to pay for my own tracking device. I have to pay for my own probation fees. I have to pay to register with the sheriff department. I have to pay victim fees and restitution. So I will spend all my time working to take care of the stuff I'm supposed to be taking care of.
And drug tests too, right?
Ma'am,
You'll have to pay for drug tests too.
the drug test,
Yes.
lie detector test, I
Yes.
think it's 1 or 2 a year I have to take on that. I have to keep a log, like track of whenever I leave home, when I get home. I have to live in a certain area. I can't leave my house past like 10 o'clock at night till 6 in the morning. I have a lot of restrictions on me. And they stated earlier that if I violated, they only think I get 10 years of in prison, but it was my understanding that since my charge was a life charge, that if I violate, that I end up getting I could get a life sentence, that they could give me life, not just 10 years, and I'm not trying to go back to prison for life.
Okay, so you would have to be on your P's and Q's for your probation
Yes, ma'am.
to keep from going back.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now you heard what the doctors said about you. Are there some things that were incorrect?
Yes, ma'am. There's things I wanted to clarify. When they were talking about my psychiatrist and psychologist, the incident took place at the the Florida State Hospital in 2006. While I was being held at Wakulla in 2015, she got a job there and she seen that I was being held there. So to keep any conflict that she thought might happen, she asked them to transfer me. So I got transferred. There was never no conflict with her in 2015.
Okay, that was in 2006.
2006.
Okay,
And Ms. Swan brought up the hostage situation. The hostage situation, ma'am, I was not part of the plot of the hostage situation. The gang members in this Old Bay County jail tried to talk me in because I was in a cell where the door was loose. And they asked me to be part of their plot. They said they wanted me to grab an officer and pull him in a room because mine was the only door that was broke. I contacted my attorney, Doug White. He called me out. I asked him if he could get me to let me speak to the chief of security. I went and told the chief of security of the plot. They took me and shipped me to the annex and put me in a strip cell under protection out there. I don't know what happened between the time that it happened, but in like a 4-month period, 4 months later, it was all over the news that the guys that I said were going to take over the jail, they took over the jail, they took the nurses hostage. Then one of the nurses got shot 3 times, and 3 of the hostage takers got shot 3 times. I was never part of the hostage situation. I tried to prevent that from happening.
okay,
She also pointed out that I told one doctor that I hadn't been with anybody for more than 10 years, and I told her that I've been with somebody for more than 10 years. And what they don't not taken into consideration. One lady was typing the information that she's asking me questions. Another one was trying to write as fast as I'm talking. So she may have left something out or not heard me because she's trying to keep up with the stuff I'm saying.
but you were trying to be truthful the whole time.
I was truthful all the times, other than when I said I didn't commit the crimes to them. I said that because he pointed out that I was able to talk about what happened to me as a child. I'm not disgusted. I don't blame myself for what happened to me as a kid because I had no control over that. But when I victimized somebody and it was a woman and I'm sitting there and I haven't talked about this for years, and these 2 women show up and they want me to start talking about it, that stuff just sickens me from that I was able to do that. And I didn't want to have to sit there and talk to a woman about the stuff I'd done wrong to a woman. That's why I did that.
Okay,
But the other stuff, I was completely truthful and everything.
okay,
I'm not trying to dispute. I got to finish this. I want to clarify the stuff that they said. They said that I did perfectly good in prison the first times I was in prison. I did not do perfectly good in prison. I got 3 DRs for fighting. I got a DR for trying to establish a relationship with a librarian. That was the first 3 times I was in prison. Since I've been in prison this time, I haven't been in no fights. I ain't trying to establish no relationships. I have no desire for sex or violence. They talked about the photos of the women. Those photos were women in bathing suits and bikinis. And I had a roommate at the time that asked me to order those photos. So I ordered those photos for him. The photos weren't for me. I had no desire for those photos. I can't do nothing looking at photos. I can't do nothing if I had a woman right before me right now. I have no sexual desire. I got saved. And the only thing I care about is serving Jesus and God Almighty and doing the will of God. And if I get out of here, I'm gonna find a church, make new friends with brothers and sisters in Christ. And the life, I'm not going to bars or strip clubs or nothing. I just want to work. I want to be able to, my mother and my elderly aunts, they prayed for me. They wanted me to get saved. And I finally got saved, and I want my mom to see me out there and being a productive part of society to show her prayers wasn't in vain. And she's been asking for dentures for years. I want to get out there and help my mom get some dentures. I I don't have no more desire for violence or sex. So if I can't have sex and I'm not showing desire for violence, I don't think I meet this criteria to be committed. I'm gonna do treatment once I get on the street.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Mr. Taylor?
Mr. Allen, thank you for your candor here this afternoon. Isn't it true, and do you agree that you have been convicted of all those crimes you heard Dr. Pritchard and the other doctors talk about earlier today? Do you agree with that history?
Yes, sir.
Do you agree with even your own expert that at least at some point in the past, possibly before your castration, according to Dr. DeClue, that you suffered from a mental abnormality or sexual disorder at that time?
Yes, sir.
I think it's admirable that you've shown some remorse here today, and I do believe that that is sincere. And you understand that these processes that we're involved in, when you have the criminal history that you have, there are continued and ongoing consequences for that type of behavior, correct?
Yes, sir.
If you were to find yourself at the end of this case sent to the Florida Civil Commitment Center and actually allowed the opportunity to engage in that treatment, would you take advantage of that opportunity and do the best you could to continue to improve yourself like you said you did in these other classes where you took classes for self-improvement?
I would do whatever I have to do, but I'd rather be able to go free, sir. I mean, I would be able to do the same stuff they're asking me to do there, like I've explained before, that there's a bunch of disruptiveness in the classes there. You got people that don't care if they ever get out, and they disrupt the class, and it's hard to learn in those classes there.
But you've been there long enough to know and to see people who have successfully been released from that program. Isn't that true?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, and you're 53 today, as we sit here today, correct?
Sir?
53 years old?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You still presumably have a significant amount of time in your life to hopefully get to the best point you can possibly be to in your life to have the best chance at success, correct? You're not an old man as we sit here today.
But there's no guarantee, because they say that it could take 5 to 7 years, and I've got a elderly black man, this Christian brother there, that he's been there for over 10 years, and he's not getting resident. He's one of the most upstanding residents I know there, and he hasn't been released.
Do you remember his name?
James Parker.
And he's from this exact same circuit, from this exact same courtroom, correct?
I believe so, sir.
Do you know that he has stated in court proceedings that he believes that is Christ's call on his life to minister to people in that facility, and that's what he has stated before?
I didn't know that, but I know he's prayed for me multiple times.
And you have been able to participate in your religious activities there at the Civil Commitment Center with people like Mr. Parker and others?
Sir, I've tried to go there, but most of the guys that go to the one church service a week there either go there to pass drugs or talk to their buddies or pass messages or to see their lovers.
Are you allowed to have a Bible at the Florida Civil Commitment Center?
Yes, sir.
Are you allowed to read it and study it?
Yes, sir.
And so it sounds like you are allowed to at least have fellowship with fellow like-minded Christians, such as you stated, Mr. Parker, which I know personally, and having been through this process.
There's only a few.
If you are sent there at the end of this case, would you be a positive influence on others there like Mr. Parker is? Or do your best to do that?
In the last 2 months, sir, I've been assaulted twice. I've been spit in my face and mouth. I've been hit in the face. I've been called a Jesus freak, a snitch, and an informant, because I do not want to be involved in the things that the majority of the residents are involved in.
What if it would only take you a few short years, if that, to make enough progress to then be released into society, better equipped to succeed and to not get back into any further trouble?
I can do that on the street, sir, because I've been getting tormented and harassed for the 20 months I've been there. I relayed all the information to my attorney.
Thank you for your candor here today, and thank you for your patience.
Ms. McCarthy, any other questions?
Yes, sir, just one. Mr. Allen, are these the certificates of all the classes you've completed?
Yeah, if I can, I'd like to point out, that's only a percentage of the certificates I got right before my release. I tried to contract a Billy Graham transitional housing in Ormond Beach, so I sent some of them to them to try to get about to go to transitional housing there.
We remove, it says states composite A, but I think it's defense composite A into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection, either way.
Publish whenever you're ready.
And we're trying to get Mr. Britt on the video.
Hey, ma'am, are they putting my poems and songs?
Yes.
Mr. Allen, you have a seat, sir. Is anyone in the Zoom room?
No, sir.
Ms. McCarthy, you want to step out, or you want to, or is your office trying to find Mr. Britt?
Yes, sir. They're trying to find him. I apologize.
If we'll quit, this is a good time to take our afternoon break. It's 3:15. We'll come back at 3:30. Remember to leave your notepads in the courtroom. Do not discuss the case among yourselves or with anyone else. Don't check any media sources or use your electronic devices to find out any more about the case you know right now. You'll follow the bailiff in the back. We can take a break. Mr. Allen, if you need to go in the, take a break, we'll take you in the back. If you want, if we're still waiting on Mr. Britt, we can maybe go over some of the jury instructions prior to that also. If you'll just let me take a, I'll just take a, well, Mr. Allen, do you need a break? Do you need a break?
Not really, sir, no.
Okay, I need a, I'm a lot
Me too.
older than y'all, so I need a, I need a break, but I'll be back in about 2 minutes. I'll be right back.
me that he's there.
Okay, very good. We'll bring the jurors back in. They still have 5 more minutes.
Okay.
We want to go do a jury instructions real quick while we have this time?
You have your copy, Judge?
I do.
I mean, I think we are agreeing to the same batch we used before, unless I'm missing something.
Yes, on the record. We'll be on the record.
No, he's looking.
Judge, what page you on?
I'm on page 11. The weighing the evidence, any of those we need to take out this paragraph?
I think those are part of the standard instructions that we always use, but if you got some reason we don't want to read those,
Mr. Clerk, will you give it all those?
Well, we never discussed felonies. So, or crimes of dishonesty, so I'd ask to take that one out.
Any objection?
well, I don't care. It's not really, it's the very first element in this process that has been admitted by the defense involves he has been convicted of a sexually violent felony. So I don't know what's so sacred about saying it in instructions, but I'm not gonna make a fuss about it.
You want it out?
Yes, please.
Okay. Any of the other ones? Probably 11.
Yes, we didn't talk about reputations either.
Just take out 10 and 11. Expert witness is okay. Rules of deliberation. And Mr. Taylor, do you have somewhere to make that correction here, or are you going to your office?
You know who made it for us last time? I think Miss Ann did, but I can ask Melissa to do it and send Miss Ann a email with the changed
Or
version.
you can send it to the clerk, and the clerk can print it out here. Whatever you like to do.
Yeah, I'll do that. You'll give me, when we're done going through them,
Yeah.
I'll make one call and it'll be done.
Then we have them after.
Yes, sir.
Rules of deliberation, any issues, Ms. McCarthy?
No.
Cautionary instructions. You got the verdict form and some indication to the jury. Any issue with the verdict form?
Judge, does the version you have there have have enough blanks in that third element? We had a new version that I was putting the right blanks in there.
That's on,
On choice C or choice number 3, where it says a certain number of jurors.
oh, yes.
It needs a blank.
Well, we made,
Yeah, I've got a blank. The jury is unable to make a unanimous verdict, but blank jurors finally responded to sexually violent crime. And
you got the right version.
Okay.
It's just, we just added a blank.
Oh, you added a blank.
Yeah, we
Okay.
sent those by email, so.
Remember what we were talking about?
There's only one blank. Do we need 2 blanks? It's because it says the jury is unable to make a unanimous, but blank jurors find the respondent is a sexually violent predator. And jurors find the respondent is not proven to be a sexually violent. It doesn't have-
I thought there was supposed to be a blank in that second part.
Yeah, we need a blank in that. second.
Okay, your version does not have that either.
Okay, I
We,
just have-
we did change that.
I just have one blank. I need a new verdict form.
The updated verdict form with the correct number of blanks. Okay, I'll come get that for a second.
Yeah.
Very good. Are we ready to read the jury?
I'm still trying to read my office. Just give me 2 seconds here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, Let me get a call her and tell her that you know the Word document, the instructions, and the verdict form. That you need the, I texted her, the rest that she needs to or the updated verdict form. With the correct blanks. In fact, you can do it. I'll email you.
That's not good.
I want you to go into my case.
Okay.
Oh, no, he didn't have that. You must have found that after.
There should be a bar over in there that says trial or instructions.
He said,
There should be a verdict. Email that. I'll send you. the email address right now. Okay. Yeah, I can send you the jury instructions to achieve the same thing. Just the verdict form. Verdict form. Okay, I'll email you right now. We'll send it. Thanks. We can proceed, Judge, and I can continue to work on this as we move on to the next witness.
So I understand Mr. Britt's in the Zoom room, so let's go ahead and bring the jurors back in. Mr. Brett, you call your next witness. Let's go ahead and bring the jurors back in. Are you gonna call anybody after Mr. Britt?
no, sir.
You're gonna arrest?
Yes, sir.
Do you anticipate any,
Very brief rebuttal with Dr. Pritchard, very brief,
we'll do that,
minutes.
and you wanna we'll take just a short break after that and make sure we're all on track on everything else, and then we'll go into close.
Email the updated verdict form to that clerk. Email address. So email the jury instructions.
Mr. Rich, can you hear us?
A page.
Yes, sir.
Okay, as soon as we have the jurors in, we're going to swear you in, and Ms. McCarthy is going to direct your examination.
Okay.
Juror generate.
Everyone have a seat. Jurors have a seat right here. How are your next witness? Britt, if you'll raise your right hand to be sworn by the clerk, please.
You do solemnly swear or affirm testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Okay, you can put your hand down. Please state your name for the record.
Robert Britt.
And Mr. Britt, you live in Orlando?
Yes, ma'am.
What's your occupation?
I'm the branch manager of a staffing agency.
Okay, and how do you know Mr. Allen?
We were incarcerated together for a few years.
Okay, if Mr. Allen is released, does he have a job with you?
He does. Yes, ma'am. I can hire him immediately.
Okay, and what about a place to live?
Yes, ma'am. I have a couple of resources that rent out rooms in transitional homes for people in his situation. So they have availability currently, and I will agree to help him with that and help him get moved into a home.
Okay, and he'll be on probation, is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, when you've known Mr. Allen, did you ever observe him engaging in any sexual acts when you were incarcerated with him?
No, ma'am.
Did you ever see him become engaged in any kind of violence?
No, ma'am.
Did you ever see him using any illegal substances?
No, ma'am.
And has he talked to you before about his plans when he's released?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And do you believe that he can succeed if he is released?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
You feel that he will do well at a job and have a place to live and be a productive member of society?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions. Mr. Taylor may have some questions for you.
Mr. Taylor, your witness.
Mr. Britt, other than you yourself having been convicted of sexual crimes against children, are you qualified at all to give any type of speculative testimony or opinions as to the likelihood that Mr. Allen would, quote, succeed out in the public?
No, sir.
Isn't it true you had you had crime, how you met, where you were serving time in the Department of Corrections yourself?
That is correct.
Can you please tell the jury a little bit about your occupational background before you were arrested and charged with various crimes?
Sorry, can you restate the question?
Have you ever been a school teacher before?
I have not, no.
Have you ever worked in the school before?
I did work in a school as a school resource officer. I am a former police officer.
And which agency did you work for before you were incarcerated?
I work for the Pensacola Police Department.
And what was the reason that you were incarcerated or where you met Mr. Allen?
I was convicted and incarcerated for possession of child pornography.
Thank you. No more questions.
Any other questions?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Can Mr. Brett be excused?
Yes, he can.
Sir, you may go about your day.
Thank you.
Ms. McCarthy, you may call your next witness.
Your Honor, at this time we would rest.
Any rebuttal?
Dr. Pritchard, very briefly.
Dr. Richard, if you'll make your way back to the witness box.
Yes, sir.
Doctor, you're still under oath.
Yes, sir.
You may inquire.
Dr. Pritchard, you got to sit through some extra testimony there and heard not only the respondent testify, but the respondent's expert, Dr. DeFleu. Did you hear anything additional or new that would cause you to change your mind or change your ultimate opinions in this case?
No.
You heard Dr. DeFleu talk about the term, and I'm going to use his term here, probability estimates. Can you talk about that in layman's terms briefly and why or why not it may be the best way to describe sex offender recidivism percentages?
Right. So you have to be really careful about that term, first of all, and you have to understand what it means. So when professionals do probability estimates, so in this particular context, sex offender recidivism context, kind of for ease of communication, let's say that the baseline rate of sexual recidivism for all sexual offenders is 20%, which means that 80% do not sexually recidivate and 20 do sexually recidivate. So when Dr. DeFleu says the probability is lower that he will reoffend than he will not reoffend, that's a correct statement. That's an accurate statement, okay? But that's not really our clinical duty. Our clinical duty is we are trying to identify those individuals, the individuals like Mr. Allen with the characteristics in terms of offending history, how rapidly he did it, how much he, the high density offending when he was in the community, personality characteristics based on those factors and others. Is he one of the 20% that's uncommon and that does sexually reoffend? So that's really the clinical task. It's a little bit misleading to say the probability is that he won't reoffend. Well, that's true. And you know what? It's true for every single sex offender. If you just do a probability estimate, the probability is higher that they won't reoffend than they will reoffend. Okay, so that's important, and kind of I think a good way to kind of describe it further is like suicide risk. Suicide, like acute suicide in a jail environment, it's a rare thing. It happens, but it's rare. So I do suicide assessments at a local county jail, Gadsden County in Quincy. So suicide assessment. So a very low probability that the person in jail is going to acutely commit suicide. But that doesn't mean that I go in there and say, no, he's not going to commit suicide because the probability is low. My task is to identify that individual who is acutely at risk of suicide based on individual factors that make him kind of unique, which is the same thing we do with sex offenders. We try to find those unique guys who don't follow that probability estimate or fall in the 20% category that are going to reoffend. So that's our clinical task.
You heard Mr. Allen describe the Florida Civil Commitment Center. He's been there for approximately 20 months. In your experience of many years of going there, doing work there and evaluating folks there, going in and out of that facility and being very aware of what goes on there, in your opinion, is the Florida Civil Commitment Center a safe and secure environment?
It is safe and secure. And, the characterization, I've seen individuals who go there and receive treatment make really remarkable change. And really it comes down to, number one, I mentioned it earlier, motivation to change, motivation to address your sexual problems. That's one of the key elements in it. Now, there are guys down there that really don't want to get better and don't want to make any changes, and they can be problematic individuals. But the guys who want to get better, they're going to treatment and they're doing their work and they're making progress and they're not involved in drug use and they're not involved in fights. So there's kind of two populations down there, the guys that are motivated to do better and are working really hard versus the guys that really aren't making any effort at all and are obviously not motivated to change. And if you're one of the guys that are motivated to do a good job and change, it's a very safe place. It's a very therapeutic place. It's a place that people, again, can make really remarkable changes.
And again, based on everything you've heard and seen in your experience, in your opinion, is there a place or a treatment program option outpatient wise that is sufficient or good enough to give Bobby Allen what he needs to maybe one day succeed out in the community.
I mean, I don't believe so. And something that he was testifying is he was demonstrating, and this is treatment language. So people involved in this kind of work and in sex offender treatment, this is the language, some of the language we use. And this is also language that we teach people that we treat to use. So sex offenders to use in the process of getting better and making some changes. I mentioned the cognitive distortions. So what I recognize Mr. Allen doing when he was sitting up here, it's called grievance thinking or externalization of blame. That is a cognitive distortion when you sit here and say you can't get any work done down at the Civil Commitment Center because too many people are disrupting things. That's just not true. It's a cognitive distortion. So in treatment and clinical parlance, he was demonstrating a cognitive distortion up here. And I said earlier, I think he has multiple cognitive distortions, which is very much central to what treatment is about, to identify the cognitive distortions and to, try to disrupt the cognitive distortions so they're thinking more clearly and without those cognitive distortions going forward. Because it's a part of their, again, treatment parlance offense cycle. These are the things they teach them in treatment. That's part of your offense cycle, making these excuses. And we're going to change that.
Thank you, Dr. Pritchard.
You're welcome.
Ms. McCarthy, any questions?
No, Your Honor.
Nothing further for Dr. Richard.
Dr. Pritchard, you're free to go about your day.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, sir. Mr. Taylor.
That's all for the stage, Your Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our last afternoon break. We're just going to take a real short break, about 5 minutes. If you'll leave your notepads in the courtroom, do not discuss the case among yourselves or with anyone else. Don't check any media sources to find out any more about the case you know right now. If you'll follow the bailiff in the back, leave your notepads in the courtroom.
What page was that jury instruction? Mine's cut off at the bottom, the page that we were striking off 10 and 11. Can you tell on yours?
Yes, it was page 11.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna log Did they email it to you? Yeah, you'll just strike out 10 and 11 on page 11. Yep. Now let's go down to our vertical. All right, she might have had to use.
I'm not sure.
I don't know if it's tacked on to the. So did you? I'll see.
Go in that jury room, make sure there's nothing on the table like there was. Already done it? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. I'm sorry.
No, he's already done. That's good. We're good. All right, well, you're doing good. You're doing absolutely good. Thank you.
It wasn't Atwell's office there, Jim. He's not here.
I wasn't gonna say nothing. I wasn't gonna say nothing, but I knew who it was.
Thanks for the picture. Judge, I think Mr. Barnes has got it fixed for us.
Very good.
the training outside of working like it was earlier.
I would do it.
I would do it, but I still would just.
But see, I'm used to going to 4 shows in one show. Trying to perform, right? So
They're saying you don't have to wear a vest, like just figure out, you know, boat and training how I. You know, or training how I actually. So, you know, like that.
How's that looking, Jim?
Yeah, I was supposed to have a radio too.
all right.
Yeah, I'm not on the radio, but.
All right, so it goes up for fun, right? And then right
Blank
there.
jurors and then blank jurors.
Okay.
So I said, well, I'm having someone go ahead and take everything off. Because this side I'm gonna do. You know what I think we do?
Oh, I am tired. But I haven't really paid attention. Not. If they make up their mind, then they don't pay attention.
I have to take it later.
Hey, in fact, Jennifer, I've got corrected verticals. If you want to skip the vertical. See the points on there on the final thing?
Yes, sir.
I got it right there. I don't need copy. I can follow along with what I have.
No, I'm fine.
Whatever the judge said. Second.
Who else is in Marvel? Since I have some. Already, am I good?
Jurors can have a seat when they get the chairs. Everyone else can have a seat. Ladies and gentlemen, both sides have now rested their case. The attorneys now present their final argument. Please remember that what the attorneys say is not evidence. However, do listen closely to their arguments. They are intended to aid you in understanding the case. Mr. Taylor, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the jury, thank you for your patience here today. We promised you at the beginning of this case, Monday, we would try to move through this material as expeditiously as possible. You know, we got started off on the wrong foot a little bit late this morning. Nobody's fault that's here. And we made up for some lost time. I know this subject matter is difficult. I know this is not easy material to wade through. I know this is it's heavy subject matter. And I thank you for your efforts here all day. You're going to get to hear me give just a brief summary, closing argument about what we have presented to you and for you to consider. Ms. McCarthy's going to get up and do a closing on behalf of the respondents. And then I get to do the law allows the state to do one final, usually very brief closing, what they call the rebuttal closing, and then we will be done. You will then have a decision to make. It just like I said when we started this case this morning, the decision ultimately is going to be for you to decide. Listen to these jury instructions that Judge Clark's going to read you. They're not too long. We're going to go through some of that very briefly right here. But I submit to you that the evidence has shown what I told you it was going to show earlier today. We've got Mr. Allen here. This is not a glorious day in the court system of Bay County. This is a sad day, actually. And it's representative of a life, Mr. Allen, who unfortunately, through choices that he's made throughout decades of his life, he spent his whole adult life in prison. And he put himself there, and the state does not apologize for sentencing him to a long prison sentence for those past very violent, very bad crimes that he committed back in the late 1990s, early 2000s. That happened. You heard these doctors come and testify, submit to you. You know, you're going to be able to take these reports back into the back if you so choose. If you want to be bored to death and read some of the doctor material, feel free to do so. You can do that. You can also rely on your own memory and your notes that you took from your memory, and you can rely on your common sense. You heard Dr. Pritchard. There's a reason that that I put him on first, because honestly, he does about as good a job as anybody that I've ever dealt with in trying to explain these concepts to folks to where we can all understand it. And you heard him say that he has grave concerns about the ability of Mr. Allen to be out in public for the first time in many, many years. Okay, it's a big risk. And Mr. Allen is here today from the witness stand, placing you in the very difficult position of taking his word for it and trusting him and relying on hope that he will not reoffend. You know, we heard about some of these percentages. You heard Dr. DeClue, the respondent's own expert, say, look, that score on a 5 with a static 99, that actuarial, that's higher, that's above average. That equates to about a 12% reoffense rate, but that's okay because that means 88% will not reoffend. You heard Dr. Pritchard just say that's not really the way to look at that. 12% is not a very good free throw percentage in basketball. That's really bad. But in the world of sexual predators and their likelihood to potentially reoffend, when they reoffend even one time, even a small percentage, it is wrecked lives, it is violence, it is a minor being harmed, it is a helpless woman or a disabled person being harmed, it is a home being broken into, it's someone getting hurt, okay? And that is the risk that Mr. Allen is asking you to accept and to trust that it will not happen. And I submit to you, he's putting you in a difficult position here today. The other option is a place that's designed specifically for Mr. Allen and people like him to where he can go, a place that's safe for him, free from violence. Nobody's going to be picking on him as a sex offender there because they're all sex offenders at the Florida Civil Commitment Center. That he will have access to individual counseling. Also, they have group counseling. When you go to Alcoholics Anonymous, do you do it by yourself? No, it's typically in a group setting. Why? Because the volumes of data tell us from these doctors that the group setting is a very good setting and a lot of different options and a lot of different treatment programs, including this type of treatment program. So that's what we don't apologize for the group setting. We don't design the treatment program down there. There's different levels and there's opportunities for him to pass through those levels. I hope his conversion and religious experience is true and valid. I hope he is a believer now. And I hope he is able to continue to worship in a manner that he deems appropriate and chooses to if he goes to the Florida Civil Commitment Center. He mentioned a guy by chance who's also a part of this program. He's right here from this same area, who we handled his case in this very courtroom, Mr. Parker. Mr. Parker is living his life for the Lord in the Civil Commitment Center and helping folks. I hope Mr. Allen is one of the folks that he is mentoring. It sounds like he is. That's great. That's the exact type of exposure of folks that will be very good for Mr. Allen to be around. Now, this other option, he's going to get let out. He's got a friend from when he was in jail, and they've got a place down around Orlando and a trailer park special for sex offenders. I have grave concerns. The evidence has shown there are grave concerns for people like Mr. Allen who've been in prison for 20 plus some odd years. What skills what is going to be the likelihood that he's going to be able to generate enough money to pay his costs of supervision, to pay for his drug testing, to pay for his counseling, to pay for his monitoring, to pay for his ankle bracelet, to pay rent, to pay for food, water, utility, all the things you have to pay for. It's very difficult. It's difficult for us with jobs to pay all those bills these days, okay? And it's very difficult. I hate to see him set up to fail by coming right out and potentially violating probation and being sent back to prison. It's a better option, if he would think about it, to go ahead and go to the Florida Civil Commitment Center and get the treatment and the help he needs. He's only 53. That is not old. He has the ability, he has the option to get in there and get with the program and make some real progress that could potentially let him be out and potentially be a safe member of society again. There's going to be a day, there might be a day in the future where he can be safely out in the community, but it's not today. It is not today. And you heard Dr. Pritchard. I was going to go through some of the highlights. I'll wait and do that here in just a moment for my closing. But there were 7 doctors that's reviewed this case. 7 doctors who do nothing but deal with forensic psychology all day, every day. And right now the score is 6-1. 6 doctors say he meets criteria. And oh, by the way, those doctors all knew he'd been castrated at the time they evaluated. The doctors knew he hadn't got any bad DRs in the last 20 years. They didn't give him any credit for having not raped minors or women while in the Department of Children, in the Department of Corrections. Okay, that is a red herring in this case. If you want to give him credit for that, great, but that is not something that we base these decisions on. We don't know what's going to happen when he's let back out into society until he's let back out into society. The law doesn't require you to know for certain what's going to happen because that's impossible. We don't know. But you heard these doctors testify that within the population of sex offenders, comparing these apples to apples, not normal people, sex offenders, that Mr. Allen is he's way up in the elite category of that regard. And that makes him very dangerous still to this day, regardless of his castration status, whether or not he gets testosterone or not. There can still be violence, there can still be impulsivity, there can still be bad behavior. And we just don't know to what extent that's going to happen until he is out. And I would submit to you that is a risk too great. There may be a day for it, but it is not today. You heard Dr. Even DeClue, the respondent's expert, agree with me on element A and element B, at least at some point in the past. Every doctor involved in this case said he suffered from a mental abnormality or personality defect. The only difference is DeClue says that as of about 2007, that all evaporated and went away. Dr. DeClue, by the way, you heard me ask him, he does exclusively defense work now. He has made it his life's work to oppose this process and this system that he used to be a part of. He writes articles, he cites statistics, and that's what he does. He goes around the country, and he's joining us from Austria for whatever reason today. And that's his opinion based on that. I would submit to you that opinion, although he's a very smart person, I respect him. That opinion pales and fails when compared to the 6 other opinions that are stacked up. Yes, I know you heard from 2, but they also synthesize those other doctors' opinions in their reports, and you're going to have that when you go back in the back. Okay, it's not appropriate for me to bring in 6 people to all say the same thing over and over and over again. So we do not do that. So this is what the case has been about, the 3 elements. You don't have to spend a lot of time on element A. We talked about that. Element B, every doctor admits that at some point He suffered from these mental abnormalities or sexual disorders. The only rub is that one doctor says not likely to reoffend. But if you go back and remember carefully how he was answering Ms. McCarthy's questions at the end of her questioning, it got a little timid there. He wasn't really wanting to go too far out on a limb and say for certain that he was willing to stake his professional reputation on predicting the future with certainty. He didn't really want to, that was a step too far. Even for the respondent expert who's getting paid $200 an hour to talk to us from Austria by Zoom. Okay? Keep all that in mind. You're the purveyor. You get to weigh what these witnesses said. You rely on your own memory. You rely on your own judgment. And don't leave your common sense out here. Bring your common sense into the back whenever you go and deliberate in this matter. Do we have a verdict form right there, Madam Clerk? You're going to take this. There's going to be a sheet. You're going to get the jury instructions as well here in just a minute from Judge Clark. There's going to be three options. Option A is that the jury unanimously finds the respondent, Bobby Allen, is a sexual predator. That is what I am suggesting to you. The evidence supports and the only verdict that should be rendered here today. That's what I'm going to ask you to do. There's two other options where if you are unable to be unanimous, there's some number who believes one way and some number who believes the other. You may fill out the verdict form in that capacity as well. But I do challenge you to go back there, talk with each other. You're going to elect a foreperson, and then walk through what you've heard in this courtroom today. And does the bulk of the weight come down on one side or the other? Does the bulk of the testimony, the evidence, the history come down on one side or the other? And if so, there's only one path, there's only one option for you on that verdict form. Two choices today is going to be take a chance and let him loose and hope for the best, or send him to Arcadia, where he will have an opportunity to thrive, to learn, to grow, to get treatment, to get medication, to get education, to worship safely, to be around others like him, and to take advantage of that program. That's what I'm asking you to do. Thank you for your attention here today, all day. I certainly appreciate it. Thank you.
Ms. McCarthy, whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon. Thank you again for your attention and for being here today. It's very important to Mr. Allen that you listen to him and that you listen to his side of the story, because when you first come here, there's so much from the state that it's hard for Mr. Allen to get his point across. So the state is trying to confine Mr. Allen to a lockdown civil commitment center because of his past, not because of his present, not because of the last 18 years, because of his past. They're not giving him any credit for the fact that he never got his ER, that he never got in trouble at the prison. They're not giving him any credit for not using drugs. They're not giving him any credit for not using any kind of sexual violence or anything like that. No, they're talking to you about what happened before 2007. He got castrated for this. He actually got physically castrated for this. I'm sure it was a hard decision. It's not an easy thing to do, and it had a lot of physical effects on him, and he had to put up with it for a long time. And I think he's doing better now, but it bothered him for a long time, and he had to take medicine for it. He did all of this to avoid a life sentence. Because of the castration, the state agreed that he would serve 25 years in prison. And then he was given 10 years of probation to follow, and that's where we are now. If you agree to let him go, he's going to be doing polygraphs, wearing an ankle monitor, having sex offender treatment, and being on probation. Sex offender treatment, sex offender probation is very strict. There'll be times when he can't leave his house. They have rules about everything, every holiday, every night. They can't just be out and about the way we are. So even if you let him go free, he's not really free, but he'll have some autonomy, some some peace to himself to be on his own. The state really wants to go back on its agreement and get you to put him somewhere else where he's gonna be probably for the rest of his life. There are people there that are there for the rest of their lives, and they follow the program. But if they don't do everything right, and there isn't an expert every year to come and say that they're doing things the way they're supposed to, then they are just there, they're kept there. And no one can tell you what the program is like. If you notice that, nobody told you that. Nobody told you how many times a week they go to meetings. Nobody told you what kind of instruction they get. Nobody told you what type of treatment they get. Nobody told you anything. So you really don't know what you're sending them into, if that's what you're sending them into. Mr. Allen has been a model prisoner and was placed in a special program for model prisoners in prison. Look at we gave you an exhibit with all the classes he took, all the certificates he got. He really put himself into it, and he didn't have to do that. He could just do his time. You don't get disciplined for not doing what you're supposed to do there. I mean, for not doing extra there. You get certificates and you get praise and you get hopefully a chance to get out. Despite the state's experts, you heard from Dr. DeClue that he no longer suffers from an antisocial personality disorder, nor does he qualify as a psychopath. You heard from Dr. DeClue that the tests the experts use to predict whether someone will reoffend are not good predictors. He told you that. And he was going through statistics. He even told you about people that had been castrated and how many times they had recidivated, and it really wasn't very much at all. What the state wants you to do is just think about his past. And I know I said that already, but I want to say it again. They want you to punish him for anything that happened up until 2007 when he stopped doing what he was doing. It's been 18 and a half years. He got to Florida Civil Commitment Center. He told you he doesn't like it there, but he's still doing what he's supposed to do. Not one DR, not one discipline, nothing. It's important to Mr. Allen that he not reoffend in prison, and it's important to him now. Not only is he not likely to reoffend, he doesn't want to reoffend. He's remorseful and he's empathetic. He's sorry for what he's done. He's ready to come into society. Although that will be a controlled return since he will be on probation, it'll be a return and he's ready for it. And I ask you to let him come back into society. Thank you.
Taylor?
Very briefly, Your Honor, thank you. Good news is this is the last time you're going to hear a lawyer talk at you the rest of this case. Judge Clark's about to read you some jury instructions. It takes a very few minutes, so listen closely to him as he tells you how to deliberate this case. I get to do a very, very brief rebuttal here, and I just want to point out a couple things. I'm not going to go back through this, this presentation up on the screens. I think we've talked about the criminal history plenty. I would just submit to you that it's a very difficult position to be in when we just say, hey, we've done a lot of bad stuff, bad stuff, but it's all in the past. And after this particular date right here, it's a total reset, a total do-over. That's what the defense would ask us to do in this case today. And unfortunately, there are some actions, there are some criminal offenses, there are some choices that we make in life. Mr. Allen has made in his life, unfortunately, that you cannot just hit the reset button on. Passage of time does not fix it. The passage of time, behaving in a very secure, confined environment of prison, which, by the way, you're supposed to do when you're in prison, does not just hit the reset button for you in these cases. I felt feelings of sympathy for Mr. Allen. I've dealt with him in litigating this case. I think he is earnest and sincere in what he believes, but you heard Dr. Pritchard say that unfortunately there could be some cognitive distortion. He is not viewing the world through the prism of reality. That's common for individuals like him and with this type of history. The fact that we feel sorry for him or have sympathy for his life and how it has turned out, sympathy for his family members who remain without a son, without a father, without family, because of his choices. That's certainly something worthy of sympathy. That is true. However, there are jurors and juries who sit in buildings just like this all across the country every day making difficult decisions because of the choices someone has made. Family members are left when loved ones go to prison. There are consequences for our behavior when we commit these types of crimes over time, even years later. Every one of these individuals who pleads to these cases, you know, we've got the judgment and sentence right here. It's not much to look at. It's just a document that say, for example, in this most recent burglary with assault or battery and sexual battery with a deadly weapon, it's got some case numbers. It's got the name of the judge involved and the lawyers involved, and it's got his fingerprints, and it goes through and it says, you know, number of years, number of probation, and the terms, and that is the agreement. He gets some credit for his time served there. At the time, he had 1,800 days in jail. So he gets credit for that in the overall math. But that's what these plea agreements, that is what these judgment and sentences look like. He is the one who chose to do the castration, to his credit, but that did not totally solve his problem. You heard Dr. Swan testify there are people who get castrated who then are released and reoffend. It does happen. You even heard Dr. DeClue. I could have objected to some of that. We're citing studies and stats that are based on nothing but coming off the top of his head live from Austria. I just let him go ahead and talk because ultimately he did come around to say there is a percentage of these people who do reoffend in Europe who've been castrated. It's not the be all end all. There's a lot of this problem with Mr. Allen that's up here and not down here. And that is the problem with these individuals. And that's what you heard Dr. Pritchard mention throughout his testimony. That was the thing. Dr. Pritchard, Dr. Swan, even Dr. DeClue, Dr. Rappa, those other three doctors in that DCF report, which you will get and you will have, they've been doing this a long time. And they look at individuals like this every day. Every day in Florida, the DOC lets out a certain number of inmates whose time is up. Of that number, there's a few that are sex offenders. Every one of them is looked at. And the vast majority of them are free to go because they do not raise the red flags. They do not have this persistent pattern or mental abnormality that makes them a danger. Guys like Mr. Allen are the very, very, very tiny, small percentage who meet the criteria. So all these doctors in the past say yes, 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 yes. Dr. DeClue gets $200 an hour to come in here last year, get involved in the case, and to have an opinion that tries to help the respondent, shine things in most favorable light to him. That's okay. That's part of this process. But I would submit to you, take all that into consideration. When these doctors went to examine Mr. Allen initially, they are not working for the prosecution. They are not working for the defense. They are working for DCF. And you heard them say a lot of times they go and determine, nope, looked at it closer, he does not meet criteria. That person gets released. You heard a certain percentage of time. I think Dr. Swan said her percentage, for example, was 60-40. 60 is yes, 40 is no, does not meet. This is not a process that is taken lightly, and this is not a process where they go down there and it's a 99% yes rate. That is not the case. Okay. This Civil Commitment Center is a new facility, new being in the last 5 to 7 years. It is new. It does look like a prison if we were to fly over it, but inside it, it is more of a dormitory, high school type facility. They have access to a library, computer lab. They can dress how they want to, wear their hair the way they want to, things of that nature, and you can earn incentives. All types of opportunities for self-improvement, including religious worship, physical fitness, education, all the rest. That being said, having heard the totality of all this case, all the evidence, I'm going to ask you to go back there and return a verdict that says, we do not want to take a chance and release Mr. Allen today. We would rather him go to the Florida Civil Commitment Center. We want to give him the opportunity to improve himself and to get better. Because you heard the doctor say that is the only place that has this level of intensity and exclusivity, okay, of this type of treatment. The extent to which and the intensive nature of this treatment is only found there. And that's what he needs. Probation, one-on-one, show up twice a week for an hour. That's not going to get it for him. And that's your charge as you go back there. Remember what you've heard. Use your common sense. Thank you for your attention here today.
Members of the jury, I shall now instruct you on the law that you must follow in reaching your verdict. It is your duty as jurors to decide the issues, and only those issues that I submit for determination by your verdict. In reaching your verdict, you should consider and weigh the evidence, decide the disputed issues of fact, and apply the law which I shall instruct you to the facts as you find them from the evidence. The evidence in this case consists of the sworn testimony of the witnesses, all exhibits received in evidence, all facts that may be admitted or agreed to by the parties, and any fact of which the court has taken judicial notice. In determining the facts, you may draw reasonable inferences from the evidence. You may make deductions and reach conclusions which reason and common sense lead you to draw from the facts shown by the evidence in this case. But you should not speculate on any matters outside the evidence. This is a civil case filed by the petitioner of the state of Florida against the respondent, Bobby J. Allen. The state alleges the respondent is a sexually violent predator and should be confined in a secure facility for long-term control, care, and treatment. To prove the respondent, Bobby J. Allen, is a sexually violent predator, the state must prove each of the following three elements by clear and convincing evidence. Bobby J. Allen has been convicted of a sexually violent offense, and Bobby J. Allen suffers from a mental abnormality or personality disorder, and the mental abnormality or personality disorder makes him likely to engage in acts of sexual violence if not confined in a secure facility for long-term control, care, and treatment. A sexually violent offense is a sexual battery or any criminal act that was found to be sexually motivated. Mental abnormality means a mental condition affecting a person's emotional or volitional capacity, which predisposes the person to commit sexually violent offenses. Likely to engage in acts of sexual violence means a person's propensity to commit acts of sexual violence is of such a degree as to pose a menace to the health and safety of others. Before the respondent, Bobby J. Allen, can be confined in a secure facility, the state has the burden of proving by clear and convincing evidence that he is a sexually violent predator. Clear and convincing evidence is evidence that is precise, explicit, lacking in confusion, and of such weight that it produces a firm belief or conviction without hesitation about the matter in issue. It is up to you to decide what evidence is reliable. You should use your common sense in deciding which is the best evidence and which evidence should not be relied upon in considering your verdict. You may find some of the evidence not reliable or less reliable than other evidence. You should consider how the witnesses acted, as well as what they said. Some things you should consider are, did the witness seem to have an opportunity to see and know the things about which the witness testified? Did the witness seem to have an accurate memory? Was the witness honest and straightforward in answering the attorney's questions? Did the witness have some interest in how the case should be decided? Does the witness's testimony agree with the other testimony and other evidence in the case? Was the testimony of the witness reasonable when considered in the light of all the evidence in the case and in the light of your own experience and common sense? Has the witness been offered to receive any money, preferred treatment, or other benefit in order to get the witness to testify? Had any pressure or threat been used against the witness that affected the truth of the witness's testimony? Did the witness at some other time make a statement that is inconsistent with the testimony he gave in court? You may rely upon your own conclusion about the witness. A juror may believe or disbelieve all or any part of the evidence or the testimony of any witness. You have heard opinion testimony on certain technical subjects from persons referred to as an expert witness. Some of the testimony before you is in the form of opinions about certain technical subjects. You may accept such opinion testimony, reject it, or give it the weight you think it deserves, considering the knowledge, skill, experience, training, or education of the witness, the reasons given by the witness for the opinion expressed, and all the other evidence in the case. These are some general rules that apply to your discussion. You must follow these rules in order to return a lawful verdict. You must follow the laws set out in these instructions. If you fail to follow the law, your verdict will be a miscarriage of justice. There's no reason for failing to follow the law in this case. All of us are dependent upon you to make a wise and legal decision in this matter. This case must be decided only upon the evidence that you've heard from the answers of the witnesses and have seen in the form of the exhibits and evidence and these instructions. This case must not be decided for or against anyone because you feel sorry for anyone or angry at anyone. Remember, the lawyers are not on trial. Your feelings about them should not influence your decision in this case. Your duty is to determine if the respondent has been proven to be a sexually violent predator. You have nothing whatever to do with the nature or length of the confinement in the event you find the state has proven its case against the respondent. The respondent is entitled to the individual consideration and opinion of each of you. It is entirely proper for a lawyer to talk to a witness about what testimony the witness would give if called to the courtroom. The witness should not be discredited by talking to a lawyer about his testimony. Your verdict should not be influenced by feelings of prejudice, bias, or sympathy. Your verdict must be based on your views of the evidence and on the law contained in these instructions. Deciding the verdict is exclusively your job. I cannot participate in that decision in any way. Please disregard anything I may have said or done that made you think I prefer one verdict over another. In just a few moments, you will be taken to the jury room by the bailiff. The first thing you should do is elect a foreperson. The foreperson presides over your deliberations like the chairperson of a meeting. It is the foreperson's job to sign and date the verdict form when all of you have agreed on a verdict in the case. The foreperson will bring the verdict back to the courtroom when you return. Before the respondent may be confined to a secure facility as a sexual violent predator, your verdict must be unanimous. That is, all of you must agree to the same verdict. The verdict must be the verdict of each juror as well as the jury as a whole. If the verdict is not unanimous, but a majority of the jury determines that the respondent is a sexually violent predator, the case may be retried before another jury. If 3 or more jurors determine that the respondent is not proven to be a sexually violent predator, he will not be confined to a secure facility as a sexually violent predator, and the case will not be retried by another jury. The verdict must be in writing, and for your convenience, the necessary verdict form has been prepared for you. Verdict. Complete paragraphs A, B, or C. Check only one. The jury unanimously finds the respondent, Bobby J. Allen, as a sexually violent predator. B. The jury unanimously finds the respondent, Bobby J. Allen, is not proven to be a sexually violent predator. C. The jury is unable to make a unanimous verdict, but blank jurors find the respondent is a sexually violent predator, and blank jurors find the respondent is not proven to be a sexually violent predator, dated and signed by the foreperson. In closing, let me remind you that it's important you follow the laws spelled out in these instructions in deciding your verdict. There are no other laws that apply to this case. Even if you do not like the laws that must be applied, you must use them. For 2 centuries, we have lived by the Constitution and the law. No juror has the right to violate the rules we all share. Mr. Taylor and Ms. McCarthy, does that accurately reflect the instructions agreed upon by the parties?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. In just a moment, we're going to have the bailiff take you back to the jury room. Take your notepads. This is when you use them. We'll ask you to leave your electronic devices, your phones, smart watches in your chair. They'll be secured by the Bay County Sheriff's Office. They will be secured. If you have a purse or pocketbook, I ask you to leave it in your chair. Also, Ms. Martin and Mr. Bailey, you are our alternate jurors. You will not go back to deliberate. We have to have 6 jurors. And since I picked these jurors on Monday, I picked more than I need. I have actually got the Wednesday and Thursday and Friday and ran out of jurors because people got sick or people chose not to come back. And actually I run out of alternates also. So I certainly appreciate your service. I'm gonna ask that you stay in the courtroom while the other jurors stay in your chairs. You'll be free to go after the other jurors are taken to the jury room. Here's the verdict form and the instructions. We have the exhibits. We'll send them back. All right, if you follow the bailiff, the jury room. Like I said, take your notepads. This is the time to use them. Just go right, just go around, come across the courtroom. Through here? Yes, ma'am.